it's the best time to go back and analyze the greatest story of all times across all mediums. Starting with the cover, which is exactly what people wanted from the manga to be. It wasn't politics, it wasn't time-traveling alien worms, and it definitely wasn't mind control and amnesia that turns everybody into robots. It was steampunk Spider-Man fighting giant naked zombies. Why would anyone ruin that by destroying what people loved about the manga? It would make the audience to turn against Isayama. Thank goodness this didn't happen, because Isayama had pre-planned everything in the story before he was even born, and everybody loved the ending. Anyways, the first scene is a fake-out regarding the main character. Akame ga Kill and Goblin Slayer did it as well, for making it clear that even the main character can die in this manga. There is no plot armor at all. It's a mature and serious plot that won't be conveniently saving certain characters while killing the rest like they don't matter. Imagine how disappointed the reader is going to be if this turns out to be a lie later on. Then we see the real protagonist waking up by the person that will become his only motivation throughout the whole story. Get used to hearing her yelling his name every 3 minutes, since she is brainwashed to be his pet and to never develop into a dynamic woman who can think for herself. Isayama is not like the other shonen mangaka, he knows how to treat women. So Eren wakes up in tears and asks why is Mikasa's hair different. He should be asking why she's 1 decade younger as well, but whatever. The reason this happened is because his future self was brainwashing him. Eren saw how he ends up being a clown, so it makes sense why he was crying. But it's okay, he stops when he gets amnesia, so the mystery can be maintained for a whole decade, and making people to theorycraft what the hell is going on, instead of openly telling them it was crap all along. Isayama shows us his brilliant writing by not giving anyone free will, and by having to be brainwashed and be given amnesia, so things will play out however he wants to, instead of how the characters should be behaving based on their personality and goals. That somehow counts as masterful storytelling. And by the way, anyone who thinks that time travel bullshit is not a broken power because it affects only titans, the Eren we see here was not yet given the injection that will make him a titan. He is a normal boy, yet the brainwashing alien worms can still affect him. This power is so broken it can mind control everyone, not just those who are titans. Anyways, they ask him why he wants to go outside the walls. Because of the brainwashing, Eren replies, because he's curious to find out what lies outside the walls. If he wasn't mind-controlled, he would have mentioned the real reason, which is murdering several billions of people so that Mikasa won't be fucked by another man, and then proceeds to fail at that despite killing several billions of people for preventing it. Extra thumbs up for saying, if he doesn't achieve his goal, everyone who died for said goal will have died in vain. Well said, Eren. Thank goodness you didn't give up on achieving your goal, and the people who died because they trusted you to protect them from the Marley didn't die in vain. Oh wait, that's exactly what happened. This is where normally his father would scold him for thinking like that, but because future Eren brainwashed him as well, he is magically in agreement. Sure thing, son, carry on with your plan of exterminating most of humanity for a lost cause. It's not like I'm going to stop you, because I can't. You are brainwashing me from the future where I see what you end up doing, but I am unable to stop you since I have no free will. By the way, here is the key to the mystery box everybody will be speculating about for the next 5 years, only to be proven to be something that changes completely the plot from fun action to some crap about racism that won't be explored properly, because they are all robots, so who gives a shit? It's not like they chose to be racists. It was Eren who was making them act like racists. Also, who needs free will for properly exploring such themes? People can be racists, even if they were never given the chance to be something else. Eren, like the pretentious, selfish asshole he is, says anyone who doesn't want freedom is a fool. Wise words coming from the one who strips everyone's free will through brainwashing. His mother realizes her son is a murderous sociopath and tells Mikasa what she has to do. Waifubot, my son is a moron. I program you to kill him in the future. And Waifubot replies, affirmative. After that, Armin joins the trio, who is something between Zenitsu from Demon Slayer, because he's blonde and screams all the time, and Sakura from Naruto, because despite being a genius who is supposed to be tactical and analytical all the time, he's fucking useless. They don't waste much time before blaming the authority and the adults for not being allowed to have freedom. Because not being allowed to go to a place that will most likely kill you is clearly fascist oppression. Who are they to tell us where we can go and where we can't go? If we teenagers feel like jumping off a cliff, we should be allowed to jump off a cliff. These are our lives. We can do whatever we want with them, including mind controlling everyone and killing most of humanity, so Mikasa won't get fucked by another man. The final page exists solely for giving Eren the moral high ground. After spending the whole chapter in showing the adults being against the idea of going outside and how much safer it is to be inside the bird cage, the Colossal Titan arrives and smashes the wall, making them feel ashamed for not being with Eren all this time. And thus our main character was proven to be right by mind controlling the Colossal Titan into smashing the walls and then mind controlling the population into feeling ashamed. And that's why Isayama is a genius that had everything planned out before the beginning of time. Anyone who disagrees should be butchered to pieces and then eaten by the faithful Jaegerists, who are none else than the fans of this show. Tatakai! The second chapter begins with a classic weakness in writing. When a character knows about something, then he doesn't need someone to explain it to him, because he knows about it. Many infodumps in fiction have this issue. They have characters explaining stuff they already know about, and therefore they shouldn't be explaining them. It comes down to the author being incompetent to show what they know and just has them blabbering about it. If that wasn't enough of a weakness, there is an extra layer of incompetence on top of it. It's when the characters say, "as you know," thus making it even more obvious to the reader that they shouldn't be talking about it. Yet here it is, in your face, treating you like an idiot. The plot is filled with moments like this one, yet most anime fans think Isayama is a genius writer who made a flawless masterpiece. He is not. It isn't. And this will be one of the many examples of why. Now I am pretty sure there will be some who will defend this sort of thing by calling it unreliable narrator. Most of the things the reader learns from the characters are not true. In this page, for example, we are told the Titans wiped out humanity and only one city remains in the whole world. This is proven to be a lie and deliberately presented as such for shocking you when you find out the truth. Basically, it's a trick for subverting your expectations, therefore it's brilliant. Ah yes, the revelation of humanity being far from extinct is such an amazing twist. You are no longer the last remaining people on Earth. There are billions more out there. What a great twist that definitely doesn't destroy the existential horror of the early parts of the story. Hey guys, we no longer have to worry about dying out as a species. What a twist, Isayama is a genius! Then comes the infamous scene where the Titans come inside the city and Eren's mother gets eaten. This is where Eren is motivated to take revenge by killing all the Titans, only to be proven it was him who killed his mother, so he can be motivated to kill the Titans he was wrongfully accusing the whole time. How messed up is this, and why do so many people think Eren is a brilliantly written anti-hero? Some try to justify him as someone who didn't know the truth at the time. Therefore he was a tragic character, because he was misguided and did a lot of things he normally wouldn't. But that's the thing with his bullshit powers. He knew everything he was doing and was then giving himself amnesia, so he won't remember it whenever it doesn't suit the plot. It's yet another example of Isayama being unable to let the characters act as they should act. He just mind controls them to act however it suits the plot, and then expects from you to think this is good writing. Look at this amazing page where people are turning against each other for survival. The psychological horror is great. Why couldn't the whole manga be like that? Why did he have to ruin everything by adding time-traveling aliens that cause amnesia? Even during the best moments, Eren was messing with everybody's free will, so things will play out in whatever way he wants to. Such as not letting the Titans eat the Marley spies who killed so many of his people, and instead ordering them to eat his mother, so he can blame the Marley for the things he caused. In essence, none of those people in the previous image are actually arguing about anything. They are puppets, acting however Eren felt like it before he got bored, killed them in horrible ways, and then flew away like a bird. What a way to ruin even the best parts of the manga. Here is another scene where the soldiers discuss which of the corps they will join, which matters in whether they go outside the walls for fighting the Titans, or staying inside the walls and hoping they won't return. It's another brilliant scene of psychological pressure. And then you find their choices were predetermined by Eren, as they simply do whatever he wants them to do. Over here we see Waifubot following around Eren. She can't make a choice because she never had free will. As for the debate itself, it wasn't grey at all, since in the very same chapter the Titans break the walls again. Eren was proven to be right all along, because he was controlling the plot all along. Over here we have a scene where his father gives him the injection that turns him into a Titan. Normally he should know he got the injection, and is now a Titan shifter, as well as he should know he gained several different superpowers. Yet he doesn't, because he gave himself amnesia. He will conveniently remember bits of what happened whenever the plot calls for it, and which in effect will be giving him sudden power-ups and plot armor. How is this good writing? There is only one possible answer. It's not. Attack on Titan was always a cheesy zombie apocalypse story, where the undead are overrunning the city and the living are turning against each other. Romero was making such movies since the 1960s. Just because the zombies here are made of hot air doesn't mean Attack on Titan was bringing something new to the formula. This scene, for example, has Eren being positive about the future, and in the very next panel a Titan appears behind him. It's a typical jump scare every run-of-the-mill slasher flick is using. Why does the most typical thing you can find everywhere counts as brilliant storytelling? It feels like everybody read a bit of Naruto, then saw this manga without having any idea about the most basic stuff that happened in every movie and series since the 1960s. Is it effective? Yeah, sure. But is it the best written story ever made that surpasses all over manga? Of course not! Attack on Titan is at best a cheese fest. At worst, it's a typical example of what happens when you don't know how to write characters and you resort to amnesia, mind control and time travel, so they will behave however you want them to behave. Keep that in mind as we move forward until all the Titan turrets are destroyed. The second Titan attack was the peak of the whole manga. After Eren and his team vow to beat the monsters with the power of friendship and all the other shit you expect to see in typical shonen, they all get massacred. What? You mean all those characters you were building up all this time won't be there for the rest of the story? And holy shit, did they just kill the main character? What a subversion! Nobody has plot armor in this show, not even the main character! Imagine how stupid it would be if it turns out he is not dead and he's also plot armored for the rest of the series. Thank goodness Isayama knew what he was doing and did not ruin it. And it's not just the plot armor that would hurt the plot if that happened. It's also Mikasa and Armin losing their chances to be their own main characters. When Eren is around, they couldn't be anything more than lackeys. With him out of the picture, they become proactive and have a free will. Mikasa is no longer a pet, but repeats Eren every 5 minutes. She takes charge, organizes the evacuation, kills multiple titans, and becomes a hero everybody respects. Armin becomes brave, strategizes, becomes a leader and saves the day. Imagine how stupid it would be if Eren somehow returns. They lose all this character development and go back to being a boring one-dimensional pet and a pussy crybaby. That would be bad and should obviously never happen. Thank goodness Isayama knew what he was doing and did not ruin it. There is a flashback at this point that shows why Mikasa became his pet. The fans keep saying Eren begins as a naive shonen protagonist who is always nice and doesn't like killing people, and then slowly develops to an anti-hero who is willing to kill in order to get what he wants. And yet here he is in the flashback, still a small child and already a psychopath who has no problem with killing people. What, did you really think his change from an innocent child to a sinister adult begins with his mother getting eaten by the Titans? Well, guess again, he was always like that. His so-called character development was just remembering things he always knew about. By the time the amnesia he gave to himself was completely gone, he just became what he always was since this flashback. A psychopath who has no problem with killing people. Anyways, after that, here is a plot twist that undoes the previous plot twist. Eren is not dead and is in fact a Titan. Because why would Isayama maintain a story as serious as it was up until this point? Why would it be about weak humans who have to use their brains against huge monsters? Or why would it be about never giving up, no matter how hopeless the situation is, in a setting where not even main characters have plot armor? Fuck that shit. It's all about using brute force against brute force, like in any brainless shonen. It's about instantly healing from any injuries, such as having your legs and hands chopped off, like in any brainless shonen. It's also about plot armoring the main characters while killing only the unimportant ones, like in any brainless shonen. Thank goodness it's not a typical shonen and the writing is flawless. What was the point of making it seem like there is no plot armor and that the secondary characters would develop into major ones just so you can throw it all away for typical shonen bullshit? A plot twist that undoes the previous plot twist. Ha, subversion, you didn't see that coming. And by the way, how did Eren transform inside the Titan? He didn't know he could transform, he didn't have a hand to bite, and if the shock alone would be enough to unconsciously trigger the transformation, then every Titan shifter would be transforming at the slightest injury he gets, which does not happen. It's another case of bad writing for the sake of plot armor. You might as well believe a future Eren told his past self to transform out of the blue in this scene and he didn't tell the other Titan shifters to transform when something similar was happening to them. After that, the soldiers are terrified of Eren since he can turn into a Titan and is therefore capable to kill them all. Without knowing any other good-willing Titans, it makes complete sense to want him dead than risk getting killed. Unfortunately, we are not reading a well-written manga, but a schlocky zombie apocalypse where our protagonist finds the knowledge and the energy to transform again only a few minutes after he was out of stamina and didn't know how he did it. Even if his future self told him to transform again, does not explain where the hell did he find the power to do it. This way he conveniently saves not only himself but also his lackeys, who are now back to being a pet and a pussy crybaby. By the way, if Titans are formed out of condensed hot air, then anyone around the Titan shifter should be blown away from the sudden shift in mass, or boiling alive by the heat around them, which does not happen to the lackeys because plot armor. Meanwhile, everybody else around them dies like flies, which makes the plot armor even more obvious. Why did people keep saying the story is a masterpiece and has no plot armor despite seeing this shit is beyond me? After that, the story shows us the brilliance of its field tactics. Just pick up a rock and close the hole in the wall. What an amazing plan! There is no way the Colossal Titan can open up a hole somewhere else immediately afterwards. Yet somehow they label the success of the mission as the first victory of mankind against the Titans. Aside from how it doesn't concern the whole of humanity, since they are just a small island on a planet with billions of other humans, it's also not much of a victory. Only half of us got eaten, the Titans did not get defeated, and a hole can open up at any moment. Victory! Best story ever written in manga history, am I right? And then the mission is over and Levi, the biggest chad in the whole manga, appears. If you thought the rule of cool is limited only to when Eren transforms and we get kaiju battles with other Titans, think again. So far, normal humans were unable to defeat more than a few Titans at best. With him around, no amount of Titans pose a threat anymore because he's simply that powerful. The existential horror of the previous chapters is completely gone and is replaced with tensionless rule of cool. Because guess what? Isayama didn't focus on writing psychological horror, he also wanted to make a battle shonen for the edgelords. And he succeeded because the biggest fans of this manga are acting like Eren. Sociopaths who want to slay anyone, including the very animators which adapted the manga. Who doesn't agree with this being the best story ever told? The mangaka decided to throw in a flashback to show the military training everyone had before they got to fight the Titans for the first time. Whether this was done so the reader will be invested in this tensionless training session after the fight was over, or because the mangaka felt like fleshing out the minor characters he just killed before moving forward doesn't matter. There are interesting things brought up, such as deliberately sending people to die for lowering the food consumption, and the way soldiers are treated in the military for getting their shit together when the real thing happens later on. They even make it seem like using the maneuvering gear is not as easy as it seems and takes a lot of effort. Unfortunately, these themes are not blending in the plot and are thus a waste of time. The soldiers are still going to be crying, screaming, and even committing suicide out of fear when the Titans attack. Therefore, the training was a failure. Also, Eren having problems with the gear is proven to be fake tension, since he was super good at it right away and was simply given defective equipment. Anyways, after that Eren has a trial for deciding what they will do with him. The situation is not black and white like in most shonen with a protagonist who has an evil monster inside him, since Eren lost control for a while, almost killed his own friends, and many soldiers died while he was gaining back control. This protagonist is not flawless when he uses his powers, at least not yet. He's not Naruto or Ichigo who never actually got someone killed with their inner dark powers, so it makes complete sense why people wouldn't trust him. It also makes sense when they decide to put him in the Survey Corps under Levi. If he goes berserk, it will be away from the human lands, and Levi is the most powerful Titan Slayer. In conclusion, if seen in isolation, the trial scene was great. It made sense and ended with a verdict everyone can get behind, instead of having some bullshit like what happened in Black Clover, where they just continued to victimize the protagonist for saving everyone's lives, and then his friends crushed the courtroom and demanded his release with the power of friendship. The next part of the story is about the Survey Corps trying to get to the basement where they would get answers regarding the Titans. This is where Isayama decided to prolong the plot by not letting them go there right away. Also because Eren can defeat dozens of Titans by transforming, and Levi can defeat even more without transforming, the threat of the Titans was no longer that big. Something had to be added for maintaining the tension, and that thing ended up being mystery bait. You are no longer reading to see if they survive the zombie apocalypse, but to get answers. Besides what lies in the basement, you are also bombarded with questions such as what are the Titans? Who is that Titan shifter who doesn't let them fulfill their mission? And why do some people seem to know more than they admit? Are there perhaps traitors amongst the humans who want to destroy the walls? Also, the introduction of the female Titan kept the tension high during the fights, since she was way more dangerous than any other mindless Titan. She wiped out almost every character who was introduced in the Survey Corps, and which were made to believe they wouldn't be killed off so fast. Isayama subverted your expectations and killed them, just like he did with Eren's original team, and after he fooled most to think there is no plot armor in the story, he kept around only a few who will magically be relevant later on. Something that needs to be said here is that for the sake of maintaining the tension and the mystery bait, Isayama was introducing more and more Titan powers for the sake of not letting the truth to come out. As such, whenever the heroes were about to find out what is going on, a new superpower conveniently pops into existence for stopping them. The female Titan alone did it 3 times. You want to get to the basement? A Titan shifter doesn't let you. You capture the Titan and are about to find out who is inside? The power to control other Titans is introduced. You capture the Titan shifter and are about to find out what is going on? The power to trap yourself inside a crystal is introduced. It almost became a meme after a while. People were saying, I wonder what new power Isayama is going to ass pull this time, so we won't find out what is going on. These constant ass pulls were also not letting the plot move forward. Dozens of chapters were passing by, and you never got any sense of progress. It was just a female Titan killing unimportant characters, then escaping, then attacking again, then killing more unimportant characters. And when she is eventually trapped in crystal, more Titan shifters appear, and the same cycle repeats again and again. Imagine how blue the balls of an average reader would be at this point, following for years a plot that wasn't going anywhere besides constantly adding more and more questions. Like, why are there Titans in the walls, or why is there a talking ape? Pages after pages of senseless violence, and the character is constantly theory-crafting conspiracy theories. It would be enough to drive those with OCD insane, not to mention making them obsessed enough to think Isayama pre-planned everything before the beginning of time. There is no way he was making up shit, it must all make sense eventually. Such as a Titan who attacks Eren, being his stepmom, who ate his actual mom because he was brainwashing her the whole time. See, it all makes sense. and when Eren was about to kiss Mikasa, Isayama said he was only loving her like his mother, only to be proven Eren was actually doing it all so Mikasa won't get fucked by another man, which means there was sexual attraction all along, and Eren was fucking his own mother at the age of 5. See, it all makes sense. Isayama knows what he's doing. It all makes sense. Also, when Eren magically remembers he can control Titans, and he orders them to attack his enemies moments before he gets killed, it's not plot armor for yet another time. It's not Isayama giving Eren a new superpower every time he writes himself in a corner, such as making him transform to a Titan for the first time when he loses his limbs and gets eaten. It makes sense, since he always had that power and never used it until now because his future self gave him amnesia. It all connects, don't you see? Like Earth being flat and the lizard people. Isayama ran out of Titan shifters at this point, but he still didn't want the plot to move forward by letting the characters go to the basement, so he kept stalling the reveal, this time with a political conspiracy that was even more boring than the plotless gore fest with the other Titan shifters. The Titans are completely forgotten at this point, and it's all about a generic evil government that hides the truth. The mystery bait about who is a Titan shifter had Titan action for maintaining your interest. This political intrigue part, on the other hand, is bare bones in cool action, and it's easy to see why the popularity of the manga was at an all-time low at this portion of the story. People were not reading Attack on Titan for fucking politics, they were reading it for the Titan action. As for those who pretended to be reading it for the deep and thought-provoking social commentary, the same fatal flaw was ruining every attempt to have a serious exploration of societies. Time travel, mind control, and amnesia. Whenever Isayama was trying to show the effects of propaganda and secret organizations that murder anyone who seeks the truth, there was no gravity to it since they were all puppets, manipulated from the future by alien worms. What kind of theme exploration can you have, and how much can you pretend the characters are willing to do despicable things for the greater good when they never had free will? Their moral dilemmas mean jack shit when the plot and the motivations can change whenever the author feels like it, which he does. Whenever he gets bored with what he is doing, he can simply throw in a revelation and pretend it was always like that, but the characters didn't know it because they were being brainwashed. In this arc, for example, it's about Krista being a princess and the royal family being fake, because there is a different royal family, which is the real one. What's that? Nobody knew about any of that because they were being brainwashed? Well, it doesn't matter because they all accept it and the plot moves on as if it was always like that. I have nothing more to say about this completely forgettable part of the manga. In fact, I am sure nobody has anything to say about it. Did anyone honestly give a shit about Levi facing that secret agent cowboy? Or that royal family turning into a titan and slowly moving towards the city? It's just Eren remembering what happened in his past and Krista becoming a queen. By the way, Sayama heavily implies the two of them are going to be a thing, and then doesn't deliver because Eren didn't want Mikasa to be fucked by another man. Something he casually does with another retcon that was always there but the audience never knew about because they were being brainwashed. After that, a lot of chapters are spent on showing how the people suffered by the Titans and how with the collapse of the royals, people gained access to a lot of luxuries thanks to sudden advancements in technology. That sounds like a thing to be happy about, assuming you give a damn about all these people who are always background decoration and who existed only to be killed by the thousands. Isayama never fleshed them out properly, and the overuse of death desensitized the audience. As a result, nobody can care about whatever is going on to the masses, or a society in general. They just wanna see Titan Shifters fighting, or a Levi fighting. Which is exactly what happened in the next event, and why the manga became popular again. After all those chapters about conspiracies and politics and people getting more technology that nobody cared about, we finally get what people always wanted, mindless Titan action. But first we had to tolerate a flashback where the Titan Shifters were the cause of a death of a character back in the early arcs. It was supposed to show how determined they were and how much they hated the people within the walls, but it definitely didn't have any emotional impact regarding that guy who they had killed. Did anyone even remember him at this point? Did anyone give a shit about him to begin with? The highlight of the fight is Erwin motivating his troops to go on a suicide charge, so the rest can flank the Titans. You obviously don't care about any of these hundreds of people who got killed in the fight. You only care about the cool way Erwin charged to his death. If Isayama gave a fuck about him, he would have kept him alive by making him a Titan shifter at the end of the fight. But he didn't. He was just another peon to die and be discarded. The one who got the Titan power and survived was Armin, a character who had nothing to offer anymore but had to be plot armored just because he's one of the main characters. That's how much Isayama cares about characterization. And then they finally get to the damn basement and get the damn answers for what is actually going on with the damn Titans. Something Isayama could have revealed years ago if he wasn't constantly stalling the plot with stupid mystery bait and boring conspiracies that kept hiding the truth for making more money by stretching the manga unnecessarily. Unless, of course, turning your entire fandom into a toxic community full of insane theory crafters and pretentious overthinkers is somehow a necessity. Let's talk about the reveal, which was literally the same one as Shyamalamalan's The Village. You know, that twist everyone was eye-rolling about, yet the fandom of this manga loved despite being the exact same bullshit. Everything you were told so far about the plot is a lie. Humanity was never at the brink of extinction, so there goes that existential horror. The mysterious Titans who were just eating people for no reason, and is why they were so terrifying, are just artificially created giant naked zombies. There goes that appeal. The entire plot changes from simply being fun Titan action, something even the characters in story admit, to some ridiculous allegory about racism and war. As much as the turrets were loving it, it doesn't change the fact that everything you liked about Attack on Titan is now dead. In fact, it was never real. From here on, you're reading a completely different manga. The amazing dread of a setting where the last people on Earth try to survive while being constantly attacked by mindless monsters was an illusion. All that is thrown in the trash for more politics and ham-fisted moral messages that eventually amount to nothing, since everyone is a plot device that behaves however the time-traveling alien worms want it. But fanboys will be fanboys, and despite this more than obvious really bad decision Isayama made for his manga, the fandom proclaimed, "This is where the real story of Attack on Titan begins," with everything that came before it being the prologue. Yes, 80% of the manga was the prologue. Something even the One Piece stards are saying for the final saga, but at least there what came before was more relevant with what came after. Here, the prologue has nothing to do with the real story, and is why the entire fandom became a clown for not admitting it. Just like Eren in the finale. Here comes the part the entire fandom was in disbelief for years when they saw it. There is time travel in Attack on Titan! For years they were calling me stupid for pointing it out, only to be validated in the long run as I always am. Any founder Titan can travel back and forth in time, have a foreknowledge of what will happen, and can affect any Eldian to behave however he wants to. This is where everybody loses his free will and becomes a puppet that behaves however the author wants him to. This is also where the snob was telling you it became complete crap, and anyone who refused to accept the truth was a moron. Anyways, we get to a time skip and the point of view changes to that of the Marley, and the Eldians who live in a different place. It's something not many liked in the fandom, since the story was building up Eren and the gang, only for this twist to make them the bad guys. How do you think this felt for anyone who was still following the manga? Why would they give a shit about some new characters they had never seen before, when they were fully invested in Eren? What, because many of them die in the battlefield? That doesn't mean anything. The audience is completely indifferent to the death of nobodies at this point. They only care if it's a named character they were following for years. None of these people feel that criteria. And it's not like they needed time to like the new cast. They hated the new cast, because they were acting like spoiled brats from some first world society. Especially Gabi, that everyone wished her a slow and agonizing death for being a piece of shit. She's supposed to be a female Eren and someone brainwashed to hate the Eldians. But honestly, who gives a damn? She's a piece of shit, there is nothing to like about her. Yet she constantly gets plot armored and one-shots whoever she likes, while everyone around her dies in a single hit and can't hit the white side of a barn. How can you not hate her in what is now an edgy shonen pretending to be a serious war drama aimed at fascist enthusiasts who think they're watching something deep and thought-provoking just because it has a lot of gore? Obviously, the blinded fanboys who thought Isayama had planned everything before the Big Bang couldn't admit it and acted like this bullshit was the best thing ever. We get to see the point of view of the enemy, they were saying. We get to see why they hate the Eldians or why Eren is not right in what he's doing. This is big fiction. No, it's not. People were reading the manga for the gory Titan action. Here's one with machine guns on his back. Really serious psychological stuff. Isayama tried hard to flesh out the Marley, but he never made any of them sympathetic. Look at them using mental gymnastics for excusing genocide. As soon as Eren began the rambling, everyone was on his side. Tatakai Eren, murder the whole planet. That is what we're here for. Who gives a shit about the Marley or Gabi? By the way, do you see that map? That's a continent from the setting. It's just Africa if you flip it upside down. In fact, the whole world of Attack on Titan is our world upside down. And every faction in it is a slight variation of some World War I military faction. That's the only thing Isayama bothered to do with the world building. He flipped around the world map and ripped off fascist Germany. That's really creative, man. And yet the fanboys think this counts as amazing world building. He just flipped the world map. Anyways, we get a flashback that shows how Reiner and the other Titan shifters infiltrated the Eldians. It's a very confusing part, since it's full of contradicting claims, most of which are the result of propaganda. He's chosen to become a Titan, not because he deserves it, but because his friend was ass-kissing the military. Meritocracy at its finest, in a society that is all about racial segregation. He wants to make his father proud, so he can return to his mother, although the father doesn't care about that. He wants to kill the Eldians on the island for posing a threat, when those Eldians don't bother anyone, and who will counterattack only if they are attacked. It's actually the Marley who are attacking everyone on the planet, but he never thinks about that. It makes sense not to make sense. He wipes out an entire country, which should be more than enough for him and all human titans to be desensitized at the thought of murder and death, and yet they are still easily scared like 10-year-olds living in a first world country with no violence, murder or death. The moment they see a titan, they run away like rookies, when they can simply transform and command the titan. Heck, even the guy who got eaten could transform in time to save his life. That's what Eren did back in the first chapters, without even knowing he was a Titan. You are telling me, a guy who didn't even know he was a Titan, and who hadn't murdered millions of people, did better than 4 people who knew they could transform into Titans, and who had murdered millions of people. It makes sense not to make sense. After that, they smashed the walls and summoned the Titans to kill millions of Eldians, something which is again not enough to make them desensitized to death. By the way, notice how they have no problem to transform and control other Titans, when a few minutes ago they were running away from a single Titan. Consistency, anyone? And before any of you smartasses say, it's something that needs time and preparation to happen properly, Eren transformed and controlled other Titans without getting any training and without even knowing he could do either. Also notice how their brilliant plan for capturing the founding Titan didn't say anything about him turning the Titans they control against them, or maybe causing the rumbling as retaliation. What's that? He would never do that because he promised never to go to war. Then why were the Eldians posing a threat? Why didn't they bomb the city with their zeppelins and be done with it? Why would they waste so many years in something that could be done in a few hours? Because they needed the founding titan alive? They say several times that modern weaponry is far superior than the titans, so that is also a lie. There are so many plot holes and so many ways for this plan to fail. I can't believe it was approved! I mean, what could possibly go wrong if it's performed by a bunch of kids who are running away from a single titan when they are supposed to be experienced soldiers who could transform into monsters that can wipe out entire countries? Then Isayama shows us once again his mastery of characterization by throwing in a flashback of a guy right before he dies, and then pretends that is all it takes for us to care about him. Although his only contribution to the plot was an info dump regarding fake history. What happened to the real story of Attack on Titan that begins after the time skip? Anything that came before was the prologue of a fake story. If this is the real story, why is it also fake? Within a few dozen chapters, Isayama retconned everything again. Also, don't you just love how we are supposed to act? Like this guy's only purpose was to be a plot device that infodumps a bunch of stuff and to die immediately afterwards because he served his purpose? But there was a flashback, the fanboys will say. He got fleshed out in it, what more do you want? How about not being a flashback right next to his death and him not existing just to die after an infodump? Then hell breaks loose, hundreds of nobodies die, and not a single fuck is given about any of them. Because at this point we are only reading it for Eren and Levi doing cool shit. Have fun pretending to care about the guy who got eaten by Eren, or the girl who got smashed by a boulder. I'm sure those 3 pages they were in made them really important and sympathetic to the audience. This next event is one of the most ridiculous things ever. Gabi one-shots an enemy because she is Gabi and then figures out in a few seconds how to use the steampunk Spider-Man gear to get on a zeppelin that was moving away from the city. How the shit were the rope and the corpse standing still when the zeppelin was moving away? They should be dragged away as well, but it didn't happen because Gabi is Gabi and everything needs to work in her favor. Once she is on board the zeppelin, her plan to avenge all those who died comes down to randomly shooting people, and that will somehow not result in her getting captured or killed. But don't worry, they're not going to kill her, despite killing their comrades, because she is Gabi. Everything needs to work in her favor, so we can have a convoluted moral message about racism. It doesn't make any sense plot-wise, but then again Isayama doesn't care about good writing. He just wants to use his characters as plot devices for ham-fisted moral faggotry. By the way, this is where Gabi killed Potato Girl, and the pretense of the fanboys becomes clear as day. Hundreds had died in the last few chapters and nobody gave a damn about any of them. They were just acting sad over concepts like war and racism. But the moment a meme dies, they couldn't stop crying about it. Imagine that, getting emotional over a meme that had no impact on the plot. What does that say about the quality of characterization Isayama is giving to his characters? He can't even handle Eren properly. Look at him acting like a badass and being willing to kill a lot of people. It made the genocide enthusiasts to love his attitude. He's not another shonen MC who never kills and uses the power of friendship. Eren is better because he won't stop until all his enemies are destroyed. And then in the last chapters he becomes a clown, because Isayama doesn't know shit about organic storytelling. He makes his characters behave however it suits the plot and not however they should be behaving. Anyways, Gabi is alive in jail, although she shouldn't be, and she easily escapes by killing a guard who cared about her well-being. More moral faggotry about the power of propaganda that makes you unable to accept the truth. Such as not every Eldian is a devil, Isayama did not plan everything before the Big Bang, and the ending sucked ass. It's things a fanboy is unable to accept, no matter how many times you explain why. So she runs off to a farm where, out of all people, she meets a girl that was saved by the potato meme, and we get more of that racism is bad message. It's all done artificially and conveniently as always, since Isayama doesn't know a thing about organic storytelling. Gabi doesn't learn a thing because she's like a fanboy of the manga and runs off to a mansion where out of all the people in the world she conveniently meets with the father of the potato meme. What's up with all these stupid conveniences? Are they part of an elaborate conspiracy? Nah, it's just Isayama showing us the extent of his writing skills. Gabi gets captured, again, and the people who are mad for killing the potato meme are not killing her, again. Holy shit, how much plot armor does Gabi have? And why is the plot constantly repeating without really going anywhere? Isayama is such a good writer, isn't he? Then Zeke explains how people can be turned into titans. As long as they inhale or drink spinal fluid from a titan shifter, they lose their free will and can become titans with a simple command, thus once again proving how people in this manga have no free will. Then Eren wears a jacket. That's all he does. Why do I mention it? Because this simple motion was enough to make all the genocide enthusiasts to want to slaughter everyone in the animation studio for not doing an amazing job with the adaptation, thus once again proving that people who like the manga have no compassion. Speaking of compassion, Eren reveals that he always hated Mikasa. He never liked her, and he will never stop until all his enemies are destroyed. What a powerful statement that I am sure will not be contradicted in the final chapter and make the genocide enthusiasts to realize they were worshipping a clown. Then there is a long fight where Eldians and Marley fight each other over the fate of the world, but it doesn't really matter, because as we know already, Eldians can become titans with a simple command. Thus any political and psychological message there might be somewhere in this conflict is rendered meaningless the moment anyone can lose his free will whenever Isayama feels like it and behave however the plot wants him to behave. During the commotion, Gabi headshots Eren, something no other character has managed to do in the whole series because he is not Gabi. Does this mean Eren is dead? Of course not. Everyone else can die if his head is blown off his body, but not Eren because he's Eren. And thus you have the perfect explanation for why Isayama has Gabi and Eren doing things that nobody else can do. So Eren and Zeke go to a place beyond space and time, where the founder of the Titans is a slave girl with Stockholm Syndrome. They time travel to their father's memories, something that the fanboys were still in denial of being possible. They're not traveling in time, they were saying. They are seeing someone's memories like a video recording. They can't affect what has already happened. The snob is a moron for calling that time travel. And then Eren mind controls his father to kill the royal family in the past, proving that the snob was right as always. Eren doesn't only see the memories, he also affects them however he likes. The fanboys who were still in denial backpedaled and said it's a time loop, meaning he can't change history, he can only make it play out in a specific way. And how does he achieve that? With time travel, mind control and amnesia, the things I was saying for years and they were yelling about me not getting the depth of Isayama's genius. This is peak fiction for having characters that behave however he wants them to behave instead of how they should behave. Amazing explanation that defines true writing genius. Of course, the fanboys who had spent years in losing their minds over making theories and then became psychotic massacre enthusiasts couldn't accept the truth, and instead of admitting Attack on Animators for 5 seconds of a jacket was trash all along, they were just joyful with how everything was part of Aizen's plan. Isayama is a genius for having thought of everything before the Big Bang, and Eren planned out every little detail since chapter 1. The foreshadowing is amazing. In case all that remind you of the One Piece fanboys, you would be correct. They are the exact same type of delusional fanboys who can't shut up about big fiction theories, everything being foreshadowed since chapter 1, and the mangaka being a genius. Here comes the first Titan, a girl with Stockholm Syndrome who was treated like shit her whole life, and when she accidentally gained superpowers while they were trying to kill her, instead of gaining back her freedom, she ran back to her master and became his slave waifu. Call it slave mentality all you want, it's stupid and it makes the already convoluted plot even more convoluted without actually explaining shit. What are the alien time-traveling parasites that turn people to giant zombies made of hot air? You will never get an explanation because Isayama doesn't give a shit. He just wanted a plot device for creating the Titans, and by extension for making everyone puppets with no free will, so the plot can play out however he wants. Now that's what peak fiction is all about. Anyways, the Eldians take over the Marley, and the slave girl keeps being treated like an object to be used and to then be consumed so more objects can be created and be used. Even after she dies, she somehow becomes the one who creates the bodies of the Titans in some weird purgatory where time has no meaning. Don't look for an explanation about what the hell happened to the zombie apocalypse you were once having fun with. Isayama didn't think of one. Eren convinces the slave waifu to give him his powers so he can end her misery by ending the world. This in retrospect doesn't make sense, since she loved being treated like garbage by the king, so why would she want to stop being a masochist? Whatever, the genocide enthusiasts were very happy, and for the next few chapters they were touching themselves as Eren was killing everyone on the planet, completely oblivious of the peak fiction ending Isayama had prepared for them before the Big Bang. So the rumbling begins and it instantly overshadows everything else that is happening in the plot. Stuff like Levi getting injured, Gabi saving the girl that Sasha saved in the past, and Annie finally breaking out of the crystal feel insignificant before Eren killing everyone on the planet. They should feel super important, but good luck doing that when character actions don't matter anymore, because by now you know Eren can control any of them, however and whenever he feels like it. Everyone in the last 20 chapters of the manga is now a powerless ant that can do nothing besides running around aimlessly. That civil war the Jaegerists had with the Eldians, who wanted to stop Eren, didn't have any weight to it. Who cares if something happens to them? Annie coming out of the crystal? How many years were the readers waiting for that? How much were they anticipating for Armin to become her boyfriend or some shit? Then it happened and it didn't matter one bit. Because nothing matters anymore. I can say the same for Eren. Who cares what happens to him? Yes, he has an army of titans that kill billions of people, but he doesn't actually do it because he wants to. He's doing it because it's meant to happen, as the alien time-traveling worms have showed him. He's crying about all the people he knows he will kill in the future, but he also doesn't change the outcome because he can't. He's following a program, just like the robots he's controlling over space and time. You are reading a manga about a robot with no free will, controlling other robots with no free will, and everything they do is predetermined. Why should you give a fuck about it? And what's with this stupid message about freedom? It's supposed to be there since the beginning of the manga, when Eren wants freedom by going outside the walls, but neither he nor anyone else ever had any freedom, because everything is predetermined. It's the same bullshit as saying Luffy in One Piece is free when he's been manipulated by his fruit, his special family, his destiny, and whoever masterminded the whole thing. What exactly is free in any of that shit, you freaking shonen writer hypocrites? You can't write a single character who does something on his own. It always has to be destiny and the gene pool that dictates everything they do. Anyways, they have this final battle where every titan in history just appears and fights at the same time. No amount of spectacle can change the fact that there is no emotional attachment left for any of these people. Why should you care if they live or die? If they die, it was meant to happen and nothing could have happened to prevent it. If they survive, it's again because they were following a program and not because they achieved it with their willpower and skills. That's what happens when you treat your characters like puppets. Zero fucks are given. And by the way, most of the crap that happened in this final part is completely absurd. One of the Jaegerists had climbed on the airplane the heroes used for flying to Eren, but he didn't shoot at the engine, thus ending the threat. He stood there, grabbing the outer husk for hours, without freezing or falling off, and only when they landed, he decided to shoot. And even when they lost the airplane, nothing really came out of it, since one of them transformed to a flying titan with absolutely no foreshadowing or explanation. This is the kind of shit Isayama was pulling out of his ass in the last chapters. The final blow is given by Mikasa, that robot who never managed to get over her infatuation or get much of a personality other than a one-dimensional fangirl. Even when she kills him, she still has oral sex with his severed head. Nothing strange there that will attract even more weirdos to the fanbase. And then we finally reach the point where everyone in the audience wakes up from the trance they were in and realizes this manga is garbage. For 138 chapters, they thought it was a flawless masterpiece. They believed everything will be wrapped up perfectly in the last chapter, and then all of a sudden they changed their mind in a few pages, as if only now they see all the problems. What happened to Eren never stopping until all his enemies are destroyed? Why didn't he marry Historia and have a kid with her? Why is he a cock? What happened to the child all the genocide enthusiasts were so thrilled with for years? This is not Eren, this is a clown. Why was the slave girl in love with her master for treating her like shit and even trying to kill her? Wasn't she waiting 2000 years to be freed by her torment? Why did she give Eren her powers when she liked being treated like garbage? What is this last moment revelation that completely ruins the themes and makes Attack on Titan a slave harem power fantasy? What happened to everything being foreshadowed since chapter 1? Why did the princess marry her bully? Why did Mikasa get fucked by another man? If this mess happened so the Eldians would be safe and never again be able to turn to Titans, why did they all get killed by the remaining humans Eren didn't kill, thus making his quest a complete failure? And why the fuck are the Titans coming back in the final panel if they were supposed to be gone forever? Jesus Christ, Eren, you failed at everything! And now you are a bird because you want to symbolize freedom? What freedom? You never had any, you robot! Does Isayama think he can get away with it by throwing in bird symbolism at the last moment? That doesn't even make any sense based on what he shows us? Fuck you, Isayama! You were making an edgy zombie apocalypse and then you thought you could be the shit by mystery baiting nonsense for a decade. You were never a good writer, your manga sucks, your psychotic fandom of genocide enthusiasts sucks, everyone hates you now, and the snob was proven to be right all along. God, I feel so vindicated!